is 1 Million Cups. If any of you guys were looking for a stamp collectors or AA meeting, this is not the place. This is the place where two startups from our community come and tell you about what they are building right here in Tampa Bay. And you ask questions, make suggestions to them, or most importantly, make connections to help them grow those businesses here. My name is Sean Kennedy. I'm an organizer here at 1 Million Cups, along with Marianne, Chris, JJ, and Danielle, who will be along later this evening. We also have the world's best support staff in Carly, who puts everything together, manages everything here, and most importantly, gets you those emails every week that tells you who presented, who will present, how you can help them out, and all about the events in our community. If you're not getting those emails, the sign-in sheet is right there by the door. Please, we're pretty low on the spam. We don't do too much spam. We do a little bit, but it's only that's all. We also have Lex in the back, who I so often fail to recognize, who's the one who puts the videos together. So if you ever miss a 1 Million Cups on our YouTube channel, you will be able to check it out in glorious high definition. But without further ado, I'm going to bring up our old friend George Everett, who was up here. He presented about 6 months ago and has pivoted.
That's not the right word.
Is not the right word?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know a lot more.
We'll see. Hey, everybody. Good morning. So, this is a last-minute thing. This is perhaps going to be the least practiced presentation. I literally finished it last night. So I'm already breaking one rule of presentation, is telling you how unprepared I am. So please be gentle with me. So I was here in June, and we presented an action plan for what we call sort of our retail market. And an action plan, action heroes, life events for individuals. And that's still going on in the background. We found a partner to market it a little bit better than we could, and it's going to be integrated into their platform. And I'm sure they'll be here to present what that is. In the meantime, we still have our software. And what happened was I was approached. I did a lot of work for the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. And they approached me and they said, hey, we want you to do an enterprise search strategy. And I do enterprise search strategies for a living for the past 15 years. And they said, and I said, that's great, I'll do that. Keep the lights on, get a little money. And I sat down to put all my stuff together that I'd done, and I'm like, gee, this looks an awful lot like an action plan. This is not an action plan for a human, this is an action plan for an organization, for an entity. And the action plan is to select an enterprise search solution for the IMF. So I'm going to go out and actually do that next week, and as doing that, I'm going to be building an action plan alongside with doing regular deliverables that I would do in that kind of enterprise strategy. So that brings us to enterprise action plans, which are business process quick starts. So the problem with a lot of organizations, not every organization, but certainly many, is that there's a lot of uncertainty about their common business practices. So everybody has like onboarding, buying equipment, these processes that they have to go through. Some people employ an entire staff to do it, like HR, employee onboarding, or purchasing, or something like that. But a lot of people don't really necessarily have that staff or the expertise to be able to make a reasoned choice for the specific kind of things that they may need. So the IMF, in case, they're not enterprise search experts. I am, so they bring me in. So the solution is enterprise action plans, which are predefined business processes with best practices and project management built in. All of this on our AnActionPlan platform. It is a software as a service platform. The big advantage in our sort of what we're going for is fixed price and scope. And a lot of enterprise consulting, and one of the things that enterprises want is fixed price and scope. They always ask me, you do this for a fixed price? And we say, yes, but here's your scope. Right? So if we can package all that up into predefined business plans with subject matter experts who know how to do that, and then provide a platform on which to do it, I think we can do two different kinds of business of action plans. One would be action plans for repeating processes. So, for example, employee onboarding. You have this process that you've defined. Employees log into our site when they come on board, and they execute this action plan, their own copy of the action plan. The other one is these one-off action plans, which are for big life events in the life of the corporation. For example, selecting an enterprise search engine, selecting a data lake, or a big data solution, or something that they may not have any particular expertise, but they have to go and evaluate people, and they rely on Gartner and various other techniques in order to do that. So we have 4 possible revenue models. Don't ask me which one of these is going to happen, but we have subscriptions, a la carte, which you go in, you log in, you get it. We have bundled. Bundled is for partners who would become like certified action planners, and they would offer action plans as a part of their service. And then white label, which would be, so we would go into a company like 3M and would say, okay, we're going to do all of your business processes, and we're going to run them on our platform in your own area, and you pay us a consulting fee and a monthly or annual maintenance fee to keep that going. Our marketing sales strategy, basically there's 3 different things to sell to those 3 different markets. One is consulting and professional services partners. These are the people who know how to do onboarding and know how to do database selection and do that all the time. But this is like an additional arrow in their quiver of a kind of a process, and we would partner with them and provide them with the software and a revenue share on the action plans that they sell. Regular old action plan store subscriptions, that's basically like the old AnActionPlan model, where people go in and subscribe to an action plan. And then private label, again, this would be when we go on site and we provide a white label kind of process for them. Here's our timeline. We are ready for launch right now. The software is pretty much done. We're putting some finishing touches on some bugs and adding a few enterprise-ish features. We're going full bore into the enterprise. There's a whole set of that things. First 3 action plans will be complete, rock and roll. We're ready to go. Who are our competition and partners? Big 4 accounting firms, they have these things called, methodologies, and that's their big deal about the things where you do that sort of on a smaller scale. ISPs, industry analysts, will probably partner with them to get the list of all of the vendors to look at and do some kind of strategy. And then, of course, the in-house professional services for a specific vendor like Microsoft or Oracle or something like that. Summary, enterprise action plans bring predictable results from proven methodologies, fixed costs and scope. It's going to be simple projects management. We don't want to get into the project, the Microsoft project space. You can use Microsoft Project with it. Partners make money by reselling existing action plans. Partners make money by creating and selling new action plans. We make money when anybody does anything. How can you help? You know what?
We'll get back to that.
We'll get back to that. So, yes, sir.
I think it's a very interesting plan, and you seem to have the expertise to move forward with this. What makes you different from the competition you just cited?
Mostly the platform, the Action Plan Runner platform. So it includes, it's this like an e-learning platform plus scheduling built into it. We're going to have a very sophisticated sort of step-by-step process, so you can say, here's when my project is due, and it will actually back out all of these steps that are already done for you. The action steps have templates associated with them. So when I say we're building the action plan for the IMF, there's a bunch of different stages to that process that are pretty well known to us. They're not necessarily known to the IMF. We're going to have all the documents that we ordinarily would go and present to them, and we would say, okay, here's your stakeholders. We're going to have the agenda for the stakeholder meeting. We're going to have interview questions. Exactly what are those things for asking the stakeholders? We're going to have evaluation criteria for the vendors. We're going to create a bake-off plan that might be actually a different action plan. to having to bake off with those vendors. Because if you're going to spend $1 million on software, you want to actually try it out and kick the tires. And a lot of vendors don't want to participate in that because that's free. And that's, and if the opportunity is big enough, they're not going to waste the resources on doing it. So we try to make it so that it's advantageous for both parties. We ask them to actually pay the vendors and things like that. So all of that stuff is built in as a template to the action plan, plus the scheduling software that keeps them on track instead of
One thought, might be interesting to look into an API in Slack.
Yep.
With your software, because I could actually see,
Already
Slack is unstructured, that is structured, it's kind of a great combination.
Yep.
Second thing is on the white label, have you thought about how you're going to do pricing? So is it going to be, basically a white label, a company wants a white label would pay an annual fee for right to use, or would it be dependent on the amount of revenue that company brings in utilizing your tool?
White label is not the right term for that. That's more the bundled model. I think what you're calling a white label is what we're calling the bundled model.
Gotcha.
I don't know. That's a good question because we can all make money in many different ways, right? We could license the technology to them, they could build their own action plan, or we could get a piece of their action for their consulting engagements. There's a lot of different ways, and I'm actually going up to DC next week, and I'm going to be interviewing a bunch of these Beltway bandits who know how to do this kind of stuff and get their thoughts on it and input. So it's in flux. Thank you.
Did you develop your software as a service platform in-house or just contract out?
Yeah, it's based on a platform called Meteor, which is a full-stack JavaScript framework. And I have 4 developers, 3 in Mexico and 1 in Bulgaria.
Nice presentation on one night's preparation. Do you have initial industries that you're planning to target? And are you going after more larger corporations or small, medium enterprises?
Probably larger and medium. The whales and the gazelles, but not the hamsters. It's not really for small business. Small business would actually be fine over on the other platform, which is sort of, starting a business is a life event. So we will have action plans over there for that kind of thing. But as far as initial industries are concerned, our pilot is the multinational, multilateral financial services organizations. So the UN, World Bank, OECD, that vertical, because if we can get into the IMF and prove value there, then they have tentacles all over in that whole system. The next one, I don't know where we're going to go with it. I'm open to suggestions. I think the vertical that we're going to hit, not necessarily the industry, but the discipline would be HR onboarding. I think that's a low-hanging fruit, and I have a couple of meetings next week with people in the headhunting industry and the personnel industry. We know how that works.
So as corporations expand and have plants all over the country and all over the world, do you see this as a way for them to create standard procedures for different companies in selection, machinery selection, database selection, search engines throughout the world to make it all more consistent?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and how this happens is, again, up for discussion, but I think a lot of organizations could benefit from having well-crafted standard operating procedures that are already vetted and already used and created by experts in those spaces. And I know they don't want to, these organizations, the government, they're lazy. They're happy to have somebody come in and tell them what to do step by step. I mean, they'll pay money for that if they don't have to actually do it themselves.
I had a good idea when I was listening to this. I just went through one of those formal management consulting processes for my own business, and was given a lot of reading to do at the time, right? And there's you mentioned your big 4, like the late Meldas that already have those processes in place. So those are like the major consulting models, right? But then under that you've got 100 other consulting models, whether they're popular things like the startup or entrepreneurs organization or whatever. All those organizations have defined models. They've got consultants that buy into those things. And the consultants that go out and charge people that need money to apply those models, but then they send me a bunch of spreadsheets and reading to fill out. None of it seems to be that whole long tail of the consulting industry they don't have tools. So if you said, okay, there's an EU entrepreneurial model, which is instead of them sending spreadsheets, if they were sending their customers and getting their customers to fill out tools, they'd be doing the selling for you. It just seems like that whole other long tail consulting models might have a need for the automation that is still writing on spreadsheets. So
Yeah.
that's just a thought.
Yeah, and that goes to our marketing plan, is who are we going to hit up first? And we're developing that as we speak, and I think that's definitely a good, we actually have some people in here who are kind of affiliated with those kinds of organizations. And, you know, I think it could very well be something like that, a long tail, as you said. We're not going to get Deloitte, PwC. I know people work there, I could call them up. I am going to call them up and say, hey, what do you think about this? But I don't have too much confidence that they'll buy
Yeah,
it.
because they already have their engineers and models and all that, but all the other consultants that are out there pushing their network of books and people and all that, it's still like, oh, read our book, follow these steps.
Yeah, I spent three weeks of my life that I'll never get back up in Hermitage at Deloitte doing an enterprise search for their methodologies. They have these huge volumes of methodologies.
How do you compare the price with these companies, like the Big Four, for instance, or the international management consulting firms?
We're going to be cheaper, not ridiculously so, but we'll definitely be competitive with, you know, the belt of bandits for sure. I mean, you know, you get somebody out in DC, they're making $400 or $500 an hour for enterprise, for SharePoint consulting, right? And people $80 an hour at most. So there's a huge profit margin if you can get into the right contracts. And I know, obviously, I know a lot of people are Sphere, so we're going to be hitting on some government folk. I think that's some pretty low-hanging fruit if I can attach myself to a couple of my friends up there who are already into the State Department, the FAA, and those kind of organizations. And if they see a successful implementation of the IMF, that's always a good call card.
In this particular type of business, I think that one of the things that your large clients like is the personal contact and the consultant talking and explaining the steps, explaining the plans and things like that. Are you going to provide that as well?
Yes, I'm cultivating a network of service providers. In fact, I'm not doing the IMF. I have a friend who was at a rival company for many years, and he's pretty much the same level of expertise as I am. He's going to go in there and we're going to build this together. So I expect to and hope to list other experts in fields that I'm not good at for sure, who are able to get in and build action plans and use that as leverage to improve their service.
Yeah, 'cause I think the software, I think it's a great idea, but you're going to need that support, that sort of human support to it. You know.
Yeah, people want to have their hand held, and we will offer, you know, it's several different kinds of service. One will be to actually do the action plan and get paid to write the action plan while we're doing the action plan. So that's why we're looking for people who already have that business and say, hey, you're already doing this, why don't you formalize it under our system and offer that to your customers. And you know what I found in my enterprise consulting is they love fixed price. They will just eat that up. If you can say, we'll do this for you for 35 grand or 50 grand or 100 grand, and here are the milestones, all the project plan is already done, all the collateral is already done, all the deliverables are already done. We're just filling out forms as it goes through, and then we'll deliver you with a document at the end, a report, and also access what you're paying. You get, as a result, you get the action, you get the output of the action plan. So you get a consultant. And also you get access with your monthly subscription to all the inputs for that consultant.
Yeah, the fixed price is great idea.
Yeah.
It will sell very well.
Yeah, and then the monthly, I mean, we get the monthly fee, that's what we keep going, right? Is to keep them to have access to the platform. So the platform has to be good and add tremendous value, but right now they're getting a Google Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So when you implement an action plan for a company, do you own that? And then you can apply it to other similar companies, or do they own that plan that you?
The person who builds the plan, depending on who pays to have the plan built, owns it. So if we build it in-house, we own it.
Then you can have a library of off-the-shelf.
Right. We'll have a library of those that we own, and we get 100% of that. But we'll have partners who build their own, you know, so we're Avalon Consulting, and we have our enterprise search engagement that is a solar quick start. Right? Solar is a well-known open source enterprise search product. We have a solar quick start. 6 weeks, we will index up to 1 million documents in up to 2 repositories, and we scope it out. And at the end, you get our standard user interface and a document that says where to go next.
Wow, if you need some software guys locally,
You're a guy.
I'm the guy.
You're a great guy. Yes.
I know you briefly talked about it earlier, but can you explain to us a little bit more about why you chose to switch from a focus on the personal versus the enterprise action plans?
So we found a partner, a local guy. His name is Ben Bressington. I don't know if you know, if anybody's heard of him. He's a brilliant marketer. He loves to sell stuff. He's Australian. He has this presence, and he basically filled in all the gaps that we needed for the personal version of an action plan, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to take an action plan, and it's going to become a part of his platform called cover.io. And Nancy, who is not here this morning, but is still, very much involved, that's her sweet spot. She loves that kind of stuff. So action plans will now, the action heroes and that whole infrastructure that we built up for the personal versions of action plans are really going to be migrated over to the Couple platform. And they'll still be able to do action plans just as we had planned before. The software is not going away. It's just that I'm more comfortable marketing into the enterprise space, and he's much more comfortable. He made me look like a complete idiot in a good way, marketing to the internet and things like that. So he can do all of that stuff, and he works his ass off, and he's really good at it. And a burden just lifted off of me when I met him. So it's not going away. And this is not, that's why I say it's not a pivot. We're not like, oh, we failed over here. It's like, no, we found a home for that that's much better. We're still going to get a piece of it. And then this is just more. Okay.
So, how can this community help you guys?
All right. I thought you'd never ask. So how can you help? First of all, introduce us to organizations who have standard operating procedures that need automating. We'd love to partner with some people who would help build out this process. Throw around the word IMF because they're a big organization who trusts us to do this. And see if there's anybody who you know who has somebody who would like to pilot it or partner with us. We'll make them a real good deal to actually get this concept built out. Service providers, so if you have consultants who provide these kinds of services and also would like to partner with us and add action plans to their stable of offerings, we'd love to talk to you or to them. And then ideas. So we have a list of ideas, like you mentioned in the back there, of what are the next low-hanging fruits, standard operating procedure type things that would fit well into action plans that we can concentrate on cultivating those relationships.
Well, thank you all again for coming this morning. I'm just up here briefly to talk about some of the events that are going on this week. So we have a couple days left of Tampa Bay Startup Week. There's hundreds of events that will still happen over the next couple days, all across the Bay, free events. So if you have any interest in learning more about those, we actually have a Kira in the back that knows a lot of information about them, so she can give you all the full details about it. There is tonight the 1776 conference, which is in downtown Tampa, and there will be 20 startups that are giving a 2-minute pitch to then compete within a national program for all different types of fun prizes that they win. So that again is tonight, and then you also have the Tampa Bay Caregiver Accelerator Info Session, which is here.
Yes.
Yes, and that is if you are specific to the caregiver industry and want to know what the business value in your idea is, this is a free session where we can take you through a 9-week program to help that turn into an actual, as George would say, an action plan. So we also have a Thunderdome Thursday, which we saw some information about Mark Swanson's events that we'll be hosting now. And then you also have coming up in March the Gasparilla Interactive festival that has a discount code for Greenhouse. How much of a discount do you get?
50%.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It's a 2-day event in downtown Tampa, all different types of entrepreneurial-focused topics to design-focused topics. So it's a really great event to be a part of. But I will get out of your way, and please give a warm round of applause for John with Design Works.
This is a little bit different. We're talking about the used car market. And Americans spend over $300 billion each year on used cars. Over 40 million people spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on a used car every year in the United States. And they have a question: has it ever been in a wreck? Is there any hidden damage? Is it safe? 20 years ago, a guy named Stephen Polk took a chance and started promoting an unknown product to help people learn about the condition of their cars. Everybody now knows Carfax. Carfax sold 2 years ago for $1 billion cash. So that's the value the market puts on a vehicle condition report, $1 billion. I like saying that, it keeps me motivated. But Carfax and its competitors that it spawned, like AutoCheck, are an incomplete product. They only get their information from databases such as government databases and insurance companies, and even not so much insurance companies anymore for a number of reasons. The problem is that millions of cars have unreported damage. That's because millions of cars are owned by plate companies that are self-insured. That would include cars in corporate fleets, that would include millions of rental cars, that would include the many millions of cars coming off of lease each year, and it would include cars at dealerships. We learned this personally when we were looking for a car. Anyways, there is a much better way to generate a vehicle condition report now. The last manufacturing business I founded started with the inspection gauges that I developed for looking at used car bodies. The first one was a consumer product, and that was used in favor of car collectors and actually auto theft investigators too. DuPont saw that at a trade show, and they suggested there was a need for an inexpensive paint thickness gauge. This became the world's fastest selling paint gauge. We had 27 people at one time making these up in Clearwater. And then that led to an electronic gauge. And that became the only gauge used by Chrysler, Ford, GM, Honda, Mercedes, all the major car manufacturers. With a gauge like this, or this is a newer, smaller model, anybody in this room can go around a car in 2 minutes and take paint thickness readings on the various panels. What that gives you is sort of an x-ray of what's lying underneath the paint. So you can see where cars have been repainted and you find hidden damage. The beauty of that is that it's objective, it's 100% verifiable, and it tells the actual condition of the car. If there's a dealer selling a car in California that just came off lease and creates an X-scan report for it, then if you're in Florida and you buy it, when you get that car arrives, it's exactly the way it was presented. It can be shown listing the actual paint thickness readings, and then with a legend showing you what means what, and it can also be shown with a diagram that alerts you to where problem areas are on the car. So that's X-scan, and that is a new kind of vehicle condition report. A number of technologies have come together to make as possible. You can now transfer the readings to a smartphone and then upload it. And so it's, this is going to happen, whether we know it or whether we make money on it or not. So as you can see, I have 2 patents on this. I also, when I sold this company, the manufacturing company, a number of years ago, so I could develop products full time. Just in case you have interests that aren't in the automotive area, here are some other products that are also on my website. The Mold Minder is the first inexpensive mold detector. That mold insurance claims are billions and billions of dollars a year. And the next one is the elevator. This is one of the most popular ones. It's a simple device where you can repair sunken sprinklers in less than 60 seconds. The next one is...
Sir, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I won't back up. I'll just keep going because I only have 6 minutes on this. I do have information sheets on these if anybody's interested. This is Safeguard is a remote control that a lot of people would want. You can block out the unneeded keys. So if you have a guest or a child, people are not going to be changing your aspect ratio and all that kind of stuff and moving things down. The next one is the world's first flat earplugs. They're as thin as a credit card, so you can keep them in your wallet. So if you're at a photo event and it's too loud, or kids are too loud, or a sporting event, you always have them on hand. And is that a question?
1 minute.
1 minute. Oh, 1 minute. Fine. CanGuard is a no-cost improvement on the dispenser of a common kind of carton. This carton sells over 400 million per year. And the last one I'm showing is the world's first illuminated check holder. I have some of the samples. This one I actually did manufacture, but all the other ones are patent pending also. So getting back to XScan, that's what we're talking about today. And the other products are on the website. If anybody has any, typically you wonder why we're here. If anybody has any contacts in any of those industries, I also have a policy of paying commission on anybody, even just simply for personal contact. The other thing I'd be interested in, if anybody has a better name than XScan, I've gotten a lot of flack for that. So I guess I'll open it up to questions if you have any questions about any of these reports.
XScan cost.
It costs virtually nothing to create. But you're asking about how much it would be for retail?
No, it's so weird, whenever I see this here, I have such a different business idea that jumps into my head, and that's the little machine. What I thought is, every used car dealer in America needs one of those.
And this is what I've been saying for 25 years, partly because I made the gauges, but it just makes sense. When you have so much money involved in these cars, these gauges cost, this one is selling for $299. It's better to have one than maybe the steel level. But anyways, you're right. This, when you consider any used car dealership or any used car inspector, this is nothing now in terms of price.
Yeah, no, I just see that as like huge, and especially like in the international market, to like license maybe that for sale, find somebody to distribute it for, all of Latin America. Because that's such a big deal there. I mean, nobody tells the, I don't want to say nobody tells the truth, that's another statement, but there's so much lying going on, and there's so much car theft going on, and there's so much, just like that. And the whole infrastructure of insurance is largely non-prominent in many Latin American countries. That like we have the honor of having here. And so I just see that as just huge.
We do, when I had a manufacturing company, and it's still going, still employing people and all, but we did sell these gauges all around the world. But what I'm doing now, since I got out of manufacturing, I'm just licensing products. So what I'm trying to do is license the process of creating a vehicle condition report using electronic gauges. And it doesn't matter whose gauge it is. Along one of the patents is using that along with a smartphone and being able to upload it so they can have a database of this. So I'm going from a little bit, but you're absolutely right. The sales of these have just been climbing and climbing for people that buy and sell cars. 20 years ago, these were primarily bought by body shops for a number of reasons I've explained, but also by insurance companies and coating manufacturers. So it has come around, you're absolutely right, this has come around to, this has become a relatively inexpensive device for anybody buying and selling cars.
Then I have another question, which is, like, when you're implementing the sales of those reports, maybe nationally or internationally, how do you compete, how do you stop people who are buying those from selling the same thing?
Well, when it comes to a patent, you can't stop an individual from copying what you're doing, but if they start selling it as a program, then you can go after them on that. So, and I don't really care whose gauge they use. I prefer that they bought it from my old company, but it doesn't really matter whose gauge they use. In fact, I hate to say the Chinese gauges have now come down so much in price that that's likely to happen the ones you use now. So, did you have a question too?
I think you contacted the car with a better name.
just let me know. I have my business cards over there and that kind of stuff. So yes, it would be, I've got a good friend of mine, he just berates me on that name all the time, so I appreciate it.
Can something like this be used in the airline industry as well?
Coating thickness gauges are used extensively in the airline industry, but it's a little bit of a different situation. You don't have an airline that gets all beat up and somebody just fills it with Hondo and puts it back out on the tarmac. So it's coating thickness gauges are used in aviation. Yes.
If it measures the amount of paint or repairs that have been done to the car, then it'll give you an indication of accidents. What about the cases like after Hurricane Sandy, for instance, and a lot of cars were sold in the United States that have been flooded with salt water, for instance? That probably would not detect the kind of damage.
Absolutely, you're 100% correct. It won't detect that, it won't detect the condition of the tires or any of that. But like auto check and Carfax, it gives you a piece of knowledge in a certain area, and it tells you about the condition of the paint and body on it. And the way that works is, if you take readings around the car, and most of the car reads 4 mils, which is 4,000ths of an inch, and then you see that the hood and front fenders are 6 mils, then you know repair work has been done there, so it'll alert you to the problem. And also, if it's too thin, for instance, on a horizontal panel, such as the roof, if it's down at 3 mils, and the car's parked outside in Florida, it's going to be like so many of the cars you see where paint is just falling off the upper panels. It tells you nothing too late. Right? It doesn't tell you everything. If it was hail damage, it'll tell you, because that will be able to tell that the car was repainted. Yes.
So if this is just telling you the thickness of the paint, what about issues like rust or anything that like a person may have fixed by themselves, and say someone takes a report, right, and they're like, oh, this car has been damaged, they don't have any knowledge, it might be just rust, it might be an accident. So do you see that as a problem area, and how do you fix that?
No, actually, that's part of the first patent. When you're taking readings around, whenever rust or collision damage has been repaired, it's repainted. So it's easy to check. For instance, you're checking the front fender, and you see that it's repainted. Then you go down, and if it's a car that might be at the age where it's rusted, you check the bottom of the fender, where typically there's rust. Or if it's the hood, you check the front of the hood to see if it's either rust, if it's been in a postal area, or to see if there's filler there. So, and same thing on a door on an older car, I have what they call a Z-test, where once you find out there's a problem, you just go to gauge like this, and then if there's rust on the bottom of the door that's been patched, you find out right away. This measures the thickness of all the paints, plus the fillers that are underneath. So, yeah, but you're absolutely right. This, by measuring the paint thickness, it alerts you to where there's problem areas, and you can use the very same gauge to find out where there's filler, and where that filler is gives you a good idea whether it was rust or whether it was a collision damage.
Also seeing a presentation within Better, so many great applications here, and they're all in different industries. What I'm curious about is, it looks like a lot of them you've already successfully commercialized and will be. Do you do both? I mean, are you the inventor and commercializing it? How, do you have a partner that helps in that?
No,
I don't understand your, like, it seems like a lot of
You're interested in anybody partnering with anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I just like, tell us a little bit about how you've gone from, because a lot of people are like, hey, that was a great idea, I created that component. You've done it multiple times over, it works with multiple different industries. What's been the keys to your success in doing that?
Well, one way to start is when, in some ways, it's easier to make money manufacturing. I mean, you are your own boss, and as long as you have the profit margins and are willing to learn enough to market it and that kind of thing, you own the business, which you can then sell for money, which is great also in addition to the profit you're making. But it takes a long time to start up a manufacturing business and then start up a distribution system for that business. So that's why I always wanted to go back to just developing new products. When I create and patent a new product, then you have to convince somebody to license it, and that is not an easy thing to do. And that's one of the reasons why it's so useful if somebody knew a person at one of the sprinkler manufacturers, and they could just say, here's a guy, he seems like he's done a nutcase, and you might want to talk to him, it looks like a nice new product. That makes all the difference in the world in getting into people. When I had my business, I had people contacting me about new products all the time, and I was open to them because I was an inventor, but I can understand why other businesses are jaded like that. So in licensing a new product, it's more difficult for sure, and there's a number of reasons why it's going to become even more difficult. There's been some things in America Act and other things that were funded by Google and Oracle are making it virtually impossible for small businesses and inventors to protect their intellectual property. But that's a whole other story. So the basic thing is right now I am pretty much by myself going out and contacting companies on all these products I showed you are not licensed yet. And only one of them that I checked over is sort of stuck in now. And it became a lot harder to sell that product than I thought it was very licensed. Just for a quick thing on that to show you things like that. The check holders that you see at restaurants, American Express stamped on them, they're given to them for free. So it's really hard to sell a product for money when they get them for free. So that's, but we've had some success with it. I'm hoping to get, for instance, the mobile payment platforms, such as Apple Pay and such, because it's perfect for them for advertising, especially when you have that. When a customer gets the bill, they have the check holder right from with Apple Pay on it. To me, it seems like a good idea, but again, getting into companies like Apple, it's not easy. So, and I guess if I'm finishing answering the question, yeah, I'm interested in working with anybody who is just 6 products. It's just too many to go try to market it by yourself.
Out of curiosity, is there a medical application for this? You're gaining something for the next.
I wish there was, because that is a wonderful field to be in. But I know there's nothing that's come to mind on that. I mean, there's obviously a lot of different kinds of technologies that are used for looking inside the human body, but this is not it.
What does it, how does the technology work? Is it ultrasonic?
No, ultrasonic is the only thing you can use for measuring paint on plastic panels like this big ship cars. But for steel bodies, it's electromagnetic induction. In a sense, there's, or not in a sense, there, on this particular device, there's 3 coils of wire. And we put a signal into one, and we measure how good a transformer it is, so to speak. We measure the amplitude of the signal coming off the other 2. And the closer it gets to the steel, the greater the signal. And with, on aluminum, we use eddy current, which is a high frequency, small capacitor.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Who are you targeting with the reports? Did you want to go after, because I'm thinking things like Moroni and that, I'm sure they've got their own stuff in place. Are you aiming more towards the local body shops, the buy here, sell here's, the buy here, pay here? Where's your market on the reports?
No, I'm not aiming for them at all. And the last thing I want to do is deal with buy here, pay here kind of lots. What I'm targeting, there are a number of nationwide companies that inspect cars as their primary business.
Okay.
When cars come off of lease, they're inspected either right away or immediately afterwards. And they oftentimes spend a lot of time inspecting them, and then those reports go to the internet so that somebody, 2 counties away or across the country can buy them. So those are the people that I'm targeting because this is something that nobody else has. And people in the used car industry instantly understand that this fills a gap that Carfax and AutoCheck has. So that's what I'm dealing with now. And something's looking pretty good at the moment, but we'll see. There's one company that wants to create a gold standard for auto inspection. This is just huge money involved in this. And if they create a gold standard, it's probably going to be using coding thickness reason because it separates it from everybody else. So that's who I'm targeting at the moment, are major auto inspection companies, because they have the people on the ground to do the inspections. I've talked to other companies that sell data like Experian, and they love to buy the data.
Experience AutoCheck.
Yes.
Just Carfax's competitor.
Yes, and they would love to buy the data, but that's all they do is they buy data and repackage and sell it. They're not going to put, thousands of people out in the field. So once one of these car inspection companies starts this process and which becomes a standard, then there's actually other revenue streams from this.
Does it only do metals, and can it do multi-layer metals?
It only, there's a number of gauges, but the gauges that are the low-cost gauges that you can use on cars measure on steel or steel and aluminum. For measuring on plastic, you need something that's ultrasound, and the current technology is not very accurate and it's very expensive. So for all practical purposes, it is.
So can you measure like anodized thickness?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for instance, on steel, which is, excuse me, let's think of the element, on anodized, it is, but anodized is only just tensile of mil. So whereas the paint on cars is totally
Can you measure tensile mil accuracy?
Oh, yeah. Well, the gauges I made, actually 100 foot on some of the.
Is there still a need for that multi-layer plastic measure?
Yes, there is. But again, the gauges are like $2,500 and they're really not very accurate to the 1 mil. So there's nothing really for the plastic parts. But then the plastic parts are less. And when they're damaged, they're usually replaced. So it's a little bit less than you need to. Is that it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Can an experienced technician do, when he finds an ad, or she finds an abnormality in, let's say, the hood of the car, can they do any more than say, whoops, red flag, I've got an abnormality, or can they interpret that data and say, this is a result of an accident, this is a repaint, this is rust, whatever?
A very good inspector, given good conditions, like it's a sunny day, the car's clean, it's not running, raining, and good lighting, all that kind of stuff, can tell a lot. The problem is that most inspectors aren't that good. And even the best inspectors make mistakes, and when you make mistakes, then you have liabilities. And AutoCheck and Carfax have gotten sued because they miss stuff. So now right on the reports, they say, this is only the information reported to us. So you're right, a really good person can do it, but I've been at auctions. I took a car there once that we had rust on the bottom of it, and I filled it up, and there's a icon over there, and it's just tapping on it and saying, absolutely, this is original, never been,
So the
people's egos get in the way too.
The people that produce reports and buy your inspection device, the X-Scan, what they'll do is typically say, oh, we got an abnormality, and that's the first step in leading them to further investigation. And that's kind of where your model fits in.
Correct. It alerts them to hidden repaint or repairs. And actually, I'm not selling a device. It's the patents are on the methodology of creating the report using coding thickness gauges. Yes.
Do y'all deal with recalls?
I'm sorry, do I deal with?
Recalls, like a recall car bad, do y'all deal with recalls?
No, I hadn't really thought about recalls one way or the other. I mean, recalls typically are for auto mechanical things. Years ago, when there was a real paint problem and paint was falling off many cars, we sold gauges to the major car manufacturers because there was a problem with the new primer called Eco. But in terms of recalls, the recalls that I'm familiar with are typically not paint but they're things like airbags and mechanical issues. So, yes.
So how can we as a community help you grow this business?
Well, one simple thing is anybody's got a better name. Other than that, if anybody has interests or contacts in the other industries that I have any products on, I would be glad to talk with them and work with them and hopefully offer them something.
Thank you.
So that's fine.
All right, thank you again, both presenters. Another awesome week, 1 million cups. We've got some great ones lined up for the next few weeks as well, but we do have a few openings coming up. So if you are thinking of presenting, we'd love for you to come on up and talk to us here at the end and see what's involved. We already had a few before. Essentially, if you're 4 years or less in business, under $1 million in revenue, doing something innovative and scalable, we'd love to have you up here presenting in front of the audience and getting a lot of great feedback on your business from everyone here. Thank you again to Kala, our sponsor. And if you're going to post this today on social media, the hashtag is 1MCSTP. Do us a favor. The best thing you can do right now is just post that on your Facebook or Twitter and say, hey, I checked out these awesome companies this morning. It's happening every week in St. Pete, 2 new companies. You should check it out next week. That's what helps our community grow. That's what helps more companies get into the pipeline and come up here and present. So thank you again, and we'll see you next Wednesday.